Hello, Biffburroughs here, and today we're going to pick out our NCAA basketball bracket. Let me move this thing out of the way. All right, we've got Villanova versus Mount St. Mary's, and this isn't the Marys in the Pac-10. And because Villanova is a more experienced team, I'm giving Villanova the win there. Wisconsin versus Virginia Tech. Wisconsin, very experienced team as well. This is going to be an interesting fight between a number 1 and number 8. Wisconsin is nothing to sneeze at. Virginia and UNCW. Virginia is just went up against a tough ACC conference, of course, so I'm going for USNCW. Even though Virginia. I'm going with Virginia. And like I said, consistency is a factor as well as the Virginia. Florida and East Tennessee. Let's go with Florida because SEC. Woohoo! SMU versus USC. USC was one that was on the bubble team like Syracuse. And a lot of people feel that Syracuse probably should have been picked over USC. So I'm going with SMU. Baylor, I like the way Baylor played. They're just like this scrappy team, but the last of the season, people figured out how to beat them like Kentucky did. But see, Kentucky has learned to overcome the adversity. Baylor hasn't, but still Baylor is nothing to sneeze at, so I got to give them. South Carolina, I love Tidwell. He's a senior, and this could be a good year for them to make a kind of a run. And it's going to be interesting to see them go against Duke. Because here's the thing with Duke. Now, Duke has got big men and South Carolina doesn't. So, of course, I'm going to pick Duke against Troy. Kansas versus UCW. Kansas had enough rest. So, let's give Kansas the win there. Miami and Florida versus Michigan State. Michigan State has been a big disappointment this year. I'd go with Miami, Florida. Iowa State versus Nevada. A lot of people say this is a interesting game, but I gotta go with Iowa State because they're tough conference that they come from. Purdue versus Vermont. Oh, this is gonna be a tough one today. Vermont is the conference champion of their league, and Purdue is, oh my gosh, Purdue is struggling in their conference, and you see there's like a 57% chance on Purdue. Oh my gosh. Is this my first upset? Oh me. Golly, if it just depends. I'm gonna pick Vermont on this one because I think Vermont has a taste for win, and so that's gonna be my upset. Creighton versus Rhode Island. And again, when the tournament happens, this could go either way. Creighton, Rhode Island. I'm going to say Rhode Island. I'm going to give this to Rhode Island. Even though, Rhode Island. Oregon versus Iona. Oh, golly. Oregon is just, going to roll them over. Michigan is playing really good right now. People talk about Duke's play, but Michigan in the conference play, to me, overshadowed Duke because no one thought Michigan would pull off the conference championship. So I'm going with Michigan. Louisville is just one of those who plays tough defense, a strong bench, so yeah. Gonzaga, Vanderbilt versus Northwest. Vanderbilt is playing good basketball right now, so Vanderbilt and Gonzaga. Notre Dame and Princeton. Oh my gosh, they got Princeton to win, and I can see that. Notre Dame in the last few games have, but Notre Dame has beat some tough teams. I mean, as much as, the Princeton always makes a run, and they always do. Oh, my goodness. If Princeton is got a good night, they're going to win, and I'm going to go with Princeton. Just like everybody else. They got 64%. West Virginia versus Bucknell. Chance to win the game. Wow. Oh, gotta go with West Virginia. I think West Virginia, they make a good tournament, and Bob Huggins is just a good coach. He's one of those tournament coaches. Maryland versus Xavier. Oh, oh my goodness. Maryland is. A lot of people got Xavier winning. Oh, this is a toughie. Because, I'm going with Xavier. Florida State is, in my opinion, Florida State was the second best team in the ACC. They were just surprisingly good this year. St. Mary, I would say second or third. And I think, they're going to have a few wins in this tournament. St. Mary's, of course, they were actually ranked higher than UCLA in their conference. So I don't know if that tells you, but they're nothing to sneeze at. Same with Arizona. It's a shame they're going to have to play Arizona. Arizona is not nothing to sneeze at, So Arizona. Some people I think have Arizona going to the Final Four, and that's possible. Kentucky versus Northern Kentucky, as long as they stay focused on this game, because everybody's trying to get them off track. The Calipari's good enough coach to know that these teams need to focus on one. Wichita State, I always like them in the tournament. Kent State versus UCLA, I'm going to say UCLA, of course. Cincinnati versus Kansas State. Oh my goodness. They've got Cincinnati 88%, but Kansas State was the team that upset Kansas. So again, if you got a good night, you can beat anybody. And they got Cincinnati at 88% of winning this. But, being in a tough conference like Kansas State is in, look at what the competition is, and they still have a winning record. I'm going to go with Kansas State on this one. And that's going to be a big one because they've got 88% on Cincinnati. But I'm sorry, the tough schedule that Kansas State played compared to Cincinnati, I don't know. I just I don't see it. Tough conference schedule, and we're not talking about non-conference schedule. Winthrop and Butler, I'm going with Butler because in their conference. Minnesota, many people have Middle Tennessee as one of the Cinderella favorites, and they are playing good basketball. But Minnesota, with Richard Pitino as coach, they've done really well. That's a hard one. This is going to go down to the wire. That's the reason why I guess they got 51% on Middle Tennessee. I'm going to go with Minnesota because I think Richard Pitino's got something up his sleeve to beat Middle Tennessee. Arkansas and Seton Hall, I'm going with the Hogs because the SEC, even though probably, on a good night, this is one right here. They got Arkansas at 84% chance of winning. No. Seton Hall is just got as much chance to beat Arkansas as Arkansas has a chance of beating Seton Hall. And look at them schedule, 8-9, 84% chance for Arkansas. I believe Arkansas slips by barely. And the SEC does not have. I'm going to say because of Arkansas's attitude that Seton Hall is going to pull this one. I think Arkansas is going to come because the way they play and watching them, they're the villains of the SEC right now. So their ego could kill them, and I think Seton Hall is one of those teams. I think they're going to underrate Seton Hall, and Seton Hall is going to beat Arkansas. North Carolina versus Texas Southern. Oh, give me North Carolina and their talent. This is the school that's always going to be talented. Villanova versus Wisconsin. Oh my gosh, people think there is good speculation that Wisconsin can pull an upset over Villanova. And what you're dealing with is two teams that are experienced. Wisconsin actually has more experience than Villanova when it comes to most of the players. Villanova does not have every member of the team of the championship team. But I got to go with Villanova because of they just have that winning with them right now. And I think Florida and Virginia, that is going to be an interesting game. The problem is Florida does not have their big man right now. But I'm going with Florida. I'm going to say Florida. SMU and Baylor. Yeah, I would go with Baylor. South Carolina and Duke. That's going to be a fun game, guys. People I think South Carolina has something to prove. I really do. But Duke is going to beat them. And I'm going to say Duke is barely going to pull it off. And I'm going to tell you guys, people are probably going to be disappointed in Duke's play in this tournament because they don't have depth. And if people figure out the weaknesses that Duke have, which they have had, and, Duke is just, their players are playing at their highest peak right now, but they just don't have the bench to pull a lot of this stuff up. Kansas and Miami, Florida. Oh my gosh, that's going to be a tough game. You got Miami with their record in the ACC, and then you have Kansas one. That's going to be an interesting game. And I know Kansas is going to be ready for stuff like Iowa State and Vermont. I'm going to say Iowa State because of their conference. And then you're going to see Kansas and Iowa State meet again. Yeah, that happens. Rhode Island and Oregon. Oregon's going to win that one. Michigan and Louisville. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a tough game because, like you said, people talk about how well Duke is playing. Michigan is playing some of their best basketball last year, but Rick Pitino's going to be ready for them. Louisville and Oregon are going to meet, and that is going to be an interesting game. Really interesting game. Now we're coming down the wire. We've got Gonzaga and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has a good game. A 3-point shot. I think they could beat Gonzaga because I think that's what's going to be interesting about Gonzaga and Vanderbilt. We're going to see a lot of 3-point shooting. And the problem is with 3-point shooting, if you're on fire, you're going to tear the opponent up. And Vanderbilt is going to tear them up if they're good. And so it could go either way, of Gonzaga and Vanderbilt. And they got Gonzaga 92%, but Vanderbilt had the toughest conference had a tough conference schedule. They had a tough non-conference schedule. And that's the reason why they have so many losses. I'm going to pick Gonzaga. And then I'm going to put West Virginia because I like Bob Huggins and his coaching, and I think he can pull this one. Xavier and Florida State. I'm going to go with Florida State because, ACC, tough. St. Mary's in Arizona. Oh, my goodness. This is just ridiculous. 28-4 and 30-4. Arizona's, better team. But, this one could go to either way. I mean, they're both good teams out west. They have their style of basketball versus us East Coast people and Midwest people. Wichita State and Kentucky. That's going to be interesting. Kentucky's going to pull it off, though. UCLA and Kansas State. Oh, UCLA. Lonzo Ball is going to do a good game. Minnesota and Butler. North Carolina and Seton Hall. Okay, let's see here. Carolina is going to break Seton Hall's heart. Minnesota and Butler. I'm going to say Richard Pitino is going to have a good run this year and go against Carolina. Then you're going to have Oregon and Louisville. I like Louisville's defense and depth. I'm going with Louisville. Rhode Island. Let's see, we already picked that one. Kansas and Iowa State. I think Kansas is going to pull that one off. And we got Kansas and Louisville playing. Villanova and Florida. That's going to be a fun game. I think Florida and Kentucky are the only SEC teams that are going to really make it this year. And I think Villanova is going to overpower Florida. Florida doesn't have an inside game right now with their injury from their big man. So Villanova is going in. Baylor and Duke. I think Baylor's going to find a chance to win, and I don't think Baylor is going to beat Duke. And you guys can just deal with it because I see Baylor as one of those teams that is a good team. They started out as a good team, and they learned that flavor for win, and I think that flavor for win is going to come back in the tournament, and they will face Villanova. Because I was wondering, because I don't like Duke as far as their thing. I think they just had that thing in the tournament, and they just don't have the depth. I think Baylor is going to attack Duke like they've never been attacked before, and they're going to show them what a Big 12 team's like. And I think Baylor's going to send Duke home, and then Villanova and Baylor are going to play each other. Because you're talking about a team that started out as undefeated and hard to beat as Baylor was in their non-conference play. So I think they probably do better against non-conference teams. Okay? Gonzaga and West Virginia. West Virginia is going to end the Zags because Bob Huggins is the man. This is his time. Arizona and Florida State. Oh, golly. This one could go in. Florida State. Oh, tough schedule. Good guys. If they're hitting threes, they're good. Arizona with their weak conference play versus Florida State, who's been beat up in the ACC so hard. Oh, no. Oh, geez. Here's their defense. Arizona beats Florida State because they commit fewer turnovers and foul, and they have much better overall offense. Yeah, but if Florida State starts hitting threes and getting their big man going, what are you going to do about that? And then Florida State's had to guard. Let's see who Florida State's had to guard. Some of the best players in the league. I'm going with Arizona because they just got that feel for win right now. And it's going to break Florida State's heart. But it's going to be a tough game, guys. Really is. UCLA and Kentucky. This is not the same Kentucky team that UCLA played. And Kentucky has been tested. That's the thing with Kentucky. I think this is the thing about this Kentucky. This reminds me of the comeback cats of Tubby Smith. That's what these guys remind me of, except for the quicker. Imagine the comeback cats if they were quicker. So you have that depth of the comeback cats, but you don't have the strength, but you have the quickness. So if Kentucky stays with the press and has no injuries, if they have no injuries in this tournament, Kentucky is going to beat UCLA. Even if UCLA has them down by 10 points, this team has learned how to scrap back. I think Kentucky's going to pull it off. And then we get down to Minnesota and Butler. Like I said, I think Richard Pitino is playing really good right now. I think this is his time to go a little bit further. And so I picked Minnesota, of course. But like I said, you got North Carolina and Minnesota. I think Roy Williams is going to win that one. But I think Minnesota they're going to get a lot of respect in the tournament. They really are. Then we are getting into our final four teams. Villanova versus Baylor. And Villanova is going to break Baylor's heart. Kansas versus Louisville. Jackie Masons versus the Louisville strength and defense. And I'm going to say Louisville. Louisville is going to play Villanova for the Final Four, it looks like. North Carolina is going to face off with Kentucky. And yeah, I got Kentucky at 58%, so I'm going with Kentucky. And then West Virginia and Arizona. Like I said, Arizona, I think that's as far as Bob Huggins is going to go. Arizona is going to win. So our final four teams are Villanova, Arizona, Louisville, and Kentucky. So that's going to be an interesting match between Louisville and Kentucky, Villanova and Arizona. Should I go any further with this? I think Arizona is going to beat Villanova if that happens, because Arizona's just got that taste for winning right now. And Louisville versus Kentucky. That is, if Kentucky faces Louisville, you're going to have defense against defense, and this is just going to be right now. Kentucky, if Kentucky sticks with their plan, I don't think Louisville would lose. If Kentucky stays with the defense that they're going, I don't think Louisville is going to lose. And I'm going to say Louisville. That's where Kentucky's going to have a tough challenge because Louisville is just too strong. They've got a strong defense. And I believe our team's going to be Arizona and Louisville. And I think Arizona's going to win it. And there you go, folks. That's who I think is going to get. And this was a tough one for me to do, guys. It really is. The bottom line, I would say the chance of the bracket looking what I just picked is probably 45% chance. The reason is because there's really not a hugely dominant team this year that we can say, oh, this is the number one team in the nation, definitely. I think there's going to be a lot of surprises, and I think one of those is people are going to be surprised about is Duke because of their history. I think they will learn their lesson in the tournament. And I like Mike and everything. He's learned to win, and he does that down the wire, but there's a lot of coaches that go down the wire he's going up against. So that's my pick. You guys have a great day.